All right, welcome, busy gamers. Today we're going to be looking at Season, a letter to the future. If you're already familiar with my first look series, feel free to go ahead and skip straight to the gameplay or the discussion section. And if you're looking for the full review, I'll put that in the end card and the show notes as soon as it's posted. So, what's a first look? For me, those first few minutes of a game are so crucial. They set a tone, they determine if a game is going to grab me. So for this series, I'm going to be bringing you along as I step foot into a game by putting a timer up and playing for just 30 minutes typically. Now, this particular game today is very story oriented. It's also fairly short, so we're likely to cut that close at just 15. As I play though, I'm going to be giving you my live thoughts and reactions before giving a short summary at the end of the video. So why was the game chosen? We'll talk about it a little bit. Season was developed and published by Scavenger Studio. It was released on January the 31st of 2023. In it, you're going to be taking a bike ride of discovery, both of self-discovery and that of the world around you. In Season, you're going to be taking the role of Estelle, the first person from a remote village to leave it in such a long time. You set off to learn, both for yourself and to document the world and what you see for others, for the future, for posterity, because something is changing. And this world, the world you're in right now, will soon come to an end. I'm not really sure what to expect here, honestly. And because this game is so story-driven and short, I'm going to do my best not to go too far into the game with our first look. I'll still give you all those opinions in the review, but I think I'm hoping for something poignant here. Ideally something uplifting and hopeful and happy, or as much as you can, for what sounds like something that might actually be the end of the world. Also, since the game mentions taking full advantage of controller support, and that is intended to enhance the game here, that's the way we're going to be playing it. We're going to be diverting from the mouse and keyboard here, and we're going to get plugged in, and we'll go on our journey together. Off we go here. Nice little desk. Kind of an interesting art style here. I wouldn't necessarily say that it is particularly old school. I think it's really more, let's say it's artistic. It's almost like a hand-drawn feel to it.
Who are you? I don't know, but I'm writing to you anyway. Where are you? How far in the future? Where'd you find my journal? I may never know, but you can know me from what I put down.
It's definitely going to be interesting to see exactly what happens to the world in between now and then. I like the idea that this story is told from somebody who is reading this journal, not necessarily from who is writing it, or at least we're getting to see that somebody else is reading it.
A vision that the elder said means this season is going to end soon. The world is about to enter a new era. A great change is coming. Everyone was afraid. I was surrounded by questions and I began to feel how little I know.
It's kind of interesting to hear this season is going to end, because I'm asking the exact same question she is. What is the season that's about to end? Is the world really changing? But is it always changing? Is that what we're asking ourselves here?
Laughing in the wilderness, I could record them before they're gone. I also thought of my dad, who always wanted to see the outside world but never did. So, I asked if I could leave. The elder had one condition for letting me go.
Cannot decide how I feel about the elder's look here.
A palace of art and memory at the edge of the earth. She says it's the only place safe from the turmoil of a changing season. I hope that's where you're reading this now. I can't stop the change that is coming, but this time on Earth...
I want to mention that we have a little bit of an odd display here. It's kind of shrunk. The game would not allow me to change its aspect ratio, would not allow me to change its resolution. So I'm playing on a 3410 by 1440 monitor. I might widen this a little bit, but it definitely has its own aesthetic, and I don't want it to change views after I've widened. It looks like we're going to be okay here. Okay, so we've got an index coming up. We've got unviewed versus concluded things. So the index has past seasons that are concluded, letter to the future, a village in the mountains, a dream, the season going to end, dad, and the morning I lose or leave home. So interesting. Okay, so this is all what we kind of just went through in that opening cutscene. So we can go back and forth between those things. Dad in the museum vault. Okay, again, this is just the conditions. So we have written all of this in our journal. Unviewed versus concluded. All this stuff is things we've seen. It's definitely interesting. I'm going to exit that. I'm going to see what we do from here. Got kind of a slow walk going on to it. We can pick up different things. That definitely looks like a goblin. Fearsome tales for blasé children. That's very interesting. Catalog of strangers. Introduction to the more frightful aspects of the world. A reasonable amount of fear and fun makes for prudent children. I don't know how much we can inspect from this. Nope, we can just flip it around. We can't open it, or it doesn't seem like we can open it. So when I click read, it just kind of goes to this, and then we can click back. Okay, so we can pick up a couple little books. It's interesting to think that they believe in goblins here. It's not what I intended to click on there. I definitely intended to click on this over in the corner.
3, 2,
It's a terrifying countdown for a bear.
hooray! Mr. Lotto's here.
Alright, that was disconcerting to say the least. I feel like that is not typically the way someone would say hooray, and that countdown was definitely odd. I have an almost broken looking bell here. May just be some shadows. Okay. It's interesting to see what they think should be called out here. The bell ringing did not feel impactful to me. We've got a ceramic animal. Looks pretty interesting. Hope you like him more than you would have liked a fish. Hate. I think he's cool looking. A first place ribbon that says Wandering Tale Festival. That is likely to be a reference to the game. I know this definitely, I believe this won some awards for storytelling. Origami is fairly cool looking. Folded by Pate again. And we can leave. So the last thing I don't think we've interacted with here is the bag.
Ready for the great departure.
I'm going to take her father's camera along. I think that seems poignant or something that is invariably something that you would want to do. Is take something of your family. I remember doing some sketches of my family when I was younger. So that makes sense. And then we have a picture of my parents. A little grainy and blurry. I assume that is meant to convey, kind of an older aesthetic. I cannot view the back part of the room, so the thing's in front of my character now. But we can change some camera angles if we kind of walk around, it seems. We can see an insect husk. We have a shiny little gem bug here. Doesn't look like something that would be real to our lives here. We can find an old bill. Owl spreads her wings over prosperity. This bill of worth 10 poems. Okay. So this society uses a different kind of currency than we do. Something of that nature. I'm treating this as a mystery, and I'm definitely treating this as a slow burn mystery here, especially because I don't want to show too much. We can say good morning to our mother, which I assume will trigger a little bit of a cutscene here.
You're up.
The art style is definitely very
I'm making progress.
hand-drawn in many places.
I found the burner, camera, recorder.
Burner.
Breakfast is in progress. Still gotta make a pendant.
Okay.
We haven't used this in so long. Good thing I saved the instructions. Just as you would use a shield to protect an identity pendant protects your mind, your thoughts, memories, everything that makes you, you. We don't wear them here in the village anymore, but if you're going into the outside world, I'll feel better when you've got a
Interesting.
shield in you.
An identity pendant. So I don't know, again, I don't know if this is mysticism or if there's actually differences in this world. We talk about how this particular area is a world where nobody has left this city, nobody has left this village.
Let's skip that part.
It's interesting to know that they kind of believe this pendant can protect you.
Pendant needs to absorb both. One, collect
a sentimental object.
For each sense. Two, feel the sense and speak aloud.
This is almost like little spell casting, so I assume it's, I don't know, maybe kind of a cultural reference, right?
As it is transferred to the pendant. That means I'll forget the memory after I say it. It's supposed to be painless, at least.
Interesting. I don't know if there's true magic to this or not.
This old tape should work for our sense of sound.
I will say that I absolutely love the aesthetic of old tapes, by the way. I've listened to the Magnus Archives. It's probably one of my favorite podcasts, and it is 100% kind of done in that old school recording aspect.
Your dad came home. We all rested together until it got dark.
Interesting. So there definitely is a level of true magic or mysticism in the world here. Is that actually responded, right?
The empty space fills itself back in until I forget that. I'm glad I'm only losing a few memories.
For me, there is 100% something poignant about losing memories.
But you'll have them in a pendant forever.
Losing memories of your family, losing memories of your life. You know, I've got a young kid, and it would truly be painful to give up important memories of his childhood.
So think about what these items and what the memories. Let's do smell next. Find an object with a strong odor and that holds a piece of you.
Something with a strong odor that holds a piece of you. You know, this is interesting to kind of think about from my own life, right? What would be something that had a strong odor?
How I've tried to save things.
This is marked with little eyes, so candies might have an odor. Dried flowers might have an odor. Flowers isn't something I would choose for myself, but that doesn't necessarily mean that's something.
Baby waves.
It doesn't necessarily mean it's something that wouldn't be. Was loved by people I have no memory of. I mean, that's definitely true. We're all loved by people we barely have memory of, right? We have extended family, and many of us were loved by our extended family, who inevitably we have no real memory of. I do think candy could work for me. I think that would potentially be something that would work for me as a scent. Right now, I haven't really seen anything else that would be that scented that I could pick up. The candle, of course.
Seaside. Darkness. This speaks to how my mom loves me.
But the candle isn't something that resonates with me inherently. Let's see. I also assume that that's something you can do taste. So maybe it's just that I actually do need to go ahead and grab these things.
Nothing is ever lost.
I think to an extent, nothing is ever lost is true. Okay, let's quickly gather up a few things here. We'll go ahead and choose this candle. I like the idea that you're loved by people that you never know. I like that idea. I think that's kind of a sweet idea.
This kind of candle keeps someone alive for the time it takes to burn. Just a few hours when death is nearby.
Interesting.
It can be enough for Last rites. This was Grandma's candle. She didn't want to use it. You spent a lot of time with her when you were a baby. I realized she wouldn't live long enough for you to remember her, or for her to see you grow up and discover what kind of person you'd be. So in a way, you don't know her. And yet, I don't know where love goes. But it belongs to you anyway.
I like the idea of a candle that could keep a family member alive long enough to say goodbye. I like the idea of that. That would make me truly happy.
Touch.
Poignant, sad, but truly happy in the moment.
Pick something with a texture you like.
Texture you like. I think there's a lot of things here that could work. But for me, I think I really like the texture of books. And so, if at all possible to use a book for that, I'd actually like to do that. That's something I had a lot of.
The lace of the cover is ready to slip away.
There we go. Yeah, a well-used book is definitely something. A well-used book is something that has definitely been poignant in my life.
So what did you end up choosing? Okay, feel the book. This book is supposed to make children afraid of the outside world. Every household has a copy, but it had its purpose in the old days. What with the chaos,
I do not like the idea
violence,
of making children
confusion.
afraid of the outside world. Maybe it's relevant in this particular world, but I do not like that.
You were scared of the images, but as soon as you could talk, are they hungry? Did they get enough sleep? Soon enough, the creatures became familiar. You dreamed they became your friends. Another moment when I began to realize what kind of person you are.
I do like the idea of someone who immediately tries to see somebody else's perspective. You know, there are monsters in that book, but why are they monsters? Why are they dangerous? You know what? I tell you, we have played 15 minutes here. I think it's enough to say we have set the tone. I don't know that it's really enough to get a whole lot of the gameplay here, but this is very, very story focused. And so what I think we're going to do is we are going to go ahead and pause the footage here. There are a lot of choices here. There are a lot of stories here. There's a lot of what is kind of going to be an experience of preparing these things. And I don't want to necessarily take that away from any of you who are viewing this video and who will eventually play the game. So I think I'm going to save the rest of it for the review. I think the game takes about 6 hours to play, and I will intend to play the entirety of it before I give it the review. Let me go ahead and stop the timer. We'll give a quick pause, and then I will give some of my final thoughts here. All right, so we're back, and I think it's time to go ahead and talk a little bit about what I thought was good here, what I thought was bad here, just my overall thoughts from this first impression. Again, it was a very brief 15-minute first impression. We did not get out of our opening home, so all we've really seen is the opening cutscene and a couple of little conversations. I have an idea that the game is likely to be somewhat slow like this, right? So if you are not into games that are more of a relaxing nature, that are more of a take time, take stock, smell the flowers nature, I'm going to wager to guess that this game is not for you. Is this game for me? I'm not honestly certain. I don't typically do a lot of that type of game. I usually prefer to be more mentally engaged than that. That being said, I do feel engaged with this in other ways. It did cause me to think about a few things, and I think that that is a reasonable goal for a game to have. I like the idea that you're kind of exploring this middle of nowhere, almost, you know, insular village-esque culture, because it developed independently of the rest of the world. So much so that, you know, they've been telling their children all these legends about the outside world so that people don't leave and see the outside world. And so to kind of learn about that culture, to interact with that culture, and to kind of tease out the why of that, I think is pretty interesting and pretty compelling. And so I think that's going to be a big positive for the game, especially if there's a bigger payoff to the mystery there. I'm interested in finding out what is the season and why things changed, the core premise here. I like the art style. There are some things that I don't like about it, but I really like the environment style. You know, how the world is built, how the textures of the building and everything are built. I'm not really sure I like the way people are drawn. There may be a little bit too much of a stylized aesthetic to that. That's almost kind of that blocky shading that I don't love. I think it works well for environments, but for people, I'm not as much of a fan of it. Really, I just see it there in her face more than her shirt or other aspects. So far, I'm compelled. I think it's interesting, but I do think it is going to be a very slow, think about things, smell the flowers as you go experience. I don't think there's going to be a crazy or exciting mystery to it. I think it's going to be more one of those things that's about reflection during the journey. So again, that's going to be my warning here. That's going to be my impressions from the first 15 minutes. I hope if you've stuck with me so far that you enjoyed this content. Leave me a leave me a comment depending on what you thought of this video, and if there's something you're curious about specifically in the review, and I'll try to make sure I address that. Until then, have a great time gaming, and I'll see you then.